The first thing we're going to talk about are types of fractions. There are 3 different types of fractions that we can look at, and those are proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed fractions. So before we begin, we want to remind ourselves that fractions have a numerator and a denominator. So usually the numerator is here on top, and here the denominator is on the bottom. All right. So when we're talking about a proper fraction, the numerator is not going to be larger than the denominator. The numerator is going to be smaller than the denominator. So the numerator is smaller than the denominator, or it's less than the denominator. So what would that look like for an example? Well, if I took the number 2 and I put it over the number 3, I can see here that my numerator is smaller than my denominator. So we call this a proper fraction. All right, let's jump over to improper fractions. Now, improper fractions are where you can have the numerator larger than the denominator, right? So the numerator would be greater than the denominator. What would that look like? A larger number in the numerator position than you have in the denominator position. All right. When you have the situation where your numerator is larger than your denominator, we call that an improper fraction. Very lastly, we have a mixed fraction. So let's say we have an example where our numerator and our denominator are exactly equal to each other. Let's say 4 over 4. Well, we know when it comes to fractions, we're dealing with parts and wholes. Parts and wholes. So I can see here in this situation that I have 4 parts and I need 4 parts to make a whole. So that is essentially a whole number here, right? I have one whole of whatever it is that I'm talking about because I have the 4 parts out of the 4 needed to make a whole. Now, when I have a whole number like this, and then I have another fraction, and I'm going to draw this lightly, right? Because this fraction is being added, but we're not always going to show that symbol. With a proper fraction, then that is called a mixed fraction. So the way that this one actually looks like would be 1 2/3, like that. But I just want to remind you guys, this is going to be addition in there, all right? Even though it's not always shown. So that means I have a complete fraction or a complete whole amount here, 4 out of 4, which gives me that 1. And then I'm adding to it another 2/3, which is a proper fraction. So that's what a mixed fraction is.